I'm Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question.
Is a character not entitled to be in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale if they're critically acclaimed? No, says the PlayStation loyalist. He was an Xbox exclusive for a year. No, says the nostalgia fanatic. He's another current generation character. No, says the conspiracy theorist. He's just here for the advertising. Superbot rejected those answers. Instead, they chose something different. They chose the impossible. They chose Big Daddy.
Hello. Yes, this is PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale history, and we're indeed looking at Big Daddy, representative for the hit game BioShock. BioShock is a first-person shooter set in Rapture, an undersea city founded in the 50s by crazed millionaire Andrew Ryan. A blend of 1950s aesthetics, traditional FPS gameplay, political themes, horror and science fiction, BioShock was a huge critical and commercial success, providing the current gen with one of its biggest franchises. And PlayStation All-Stars got representation in the form of Big Daddy. Big Daddy isn't the player character in BioShock. He's not even the main antagonist. He isn't even a single character, more a recurring enemy that you encounter throughout the game. Hell, even claiming he's an enemy is technically false, since he doesn't outright attack the player unless you attack first. Big Daddy's a hulking diving suit monster equipped with drills or rivet guns and sent to protect the little sisters. Generally neutral to the player, they will attack if they or the little sister is threatened. There are various types of Big Daddy, but the most iconic is the Bouncer, which appears on the cover of BioShock and is also the version that appears by default in PlayStation All-Stars. His inclusion in PlayStation All-Stars was controversial, since BioShock was exclusive to the Xbox 360 for a year before coming to the PS3, and many felt that he was added to help advertise the latest BioShock title, Infinite. However, his inclusion does represent a major franchise for the current gen, so it's not all bad. So let's take a look at what he can do. First of all, the Big Daddy default in PlayStation All-Stars is the Bouncer, the first type you encounter in-game, and the most well-known. But these are not the only ones that you can encounter. Later in BioShock you can encounter the Elite Bouncer, which is a slightly stronger variant with red colouring, who is oddly not a knock colour for Big Daddy in PlayStation All-Stars, despite that being an obvious choice. The closest origins I can find are the second colour being similar to that of a Rosie, which we'll get to in a second, and the third variant being similar to a render of a Clean Bouncer, which indicates its limbs are supposed to be blue normally. A few levels into BioShock you can also encounter the Rosie, a Big Daddy model equipped not with a drill but with a rivet gun, making its name a clear reference to the famous propaganda posters of the Second World War featuring a character named Rosie the Riveter. This model is the second costume for Big Daddy in PlayStation All-Stars, although this time there's no rivet gun. It's still a drill. Again, all colours are hard to nail down, but concept art of Rosie does suggest an origin for the grey variant. The final costume for Big Daddy is an interesting one, as it's based on an early version of a doll owned by major character Eleanor Lamb in BioShock 2, although it seems the version of the doll seen in the actual game is different. Once again, all colours are not clear, so let's just move on. The Bouncer Big Daddy's primary weapon is a large drill. Not your ordinary cordless drill either, we're talking a great hulking mining drill, and your average Big Daddy is not afraid to use it. In fact, when we first encounter a Big Daddy in BioShock, it's behind glass, as one of the Splicer enemies attacks a little sister. The Bouncer leaps in, chucks a chair at the Splicer and immediately skewers him to a wall. Lovely, I know. However, this same thing could happen to the player if you enrage a Big Daddy. As well as the skewering drill punch, Big Daddies can also charge towards you with great speed, and they can slam their drills into the ground to cause a shockwave. These moves all got transferred into PlayStation All-Stars as Big Daddy's triangle moves, and they make for his central attacks. The drill punch and uppercut are powerful moves, the charge is a great way to close distances and also cause a lot of AP gain, and the drill slam is an excellent crowd control move. Basically, the drill is immensely useful. Also, that intro scene for Big Daddy may have played a big part in the creation of his PlayStation All-Stars throws, particularly his slam throw, which Big Daddy definitely does in that first appearance. Aside from his drill, your average Big Daddy also has a huge fist, but they rarely use this in combat. In fact, you're more likely to see a Big Daddy slamming on a vent to call out a little sister than punching a Splicer in the face. This didn't stop punches from becoming another aspect of Big Daddy's moveset. However, it's notable that many of his fist moves are less powerful variations on his drill moves. The drill punch becomes jab, the drill skewer becomes the uppercut, the slam that follows up the charging rush becomes the overhead palooka, that sort of thing. Difficult to really know what else to do with Big Daddy, I guess, so they improvised. Which brings us to our next set of moves. Plasmids are a major aspect of the Bioshock universe. These are genetic enhancements used by the player to gain a series of weird and wonderful powers, and we encounter our first when we decide to jam a random glowing needle in our arm, which seems sensible.
Steady now. Your genetic code is being rewritten. Just hold on and everything will be fine.
The first plasmid you get, and one of the few that is mandatory to progression, is Electro Bolt, which allows you to shoot lightning from your hands. Throughout the game it's used to short-circuit broken door locks, electrocute enemies in water, and good old-fashioned stunning. However, what you may be noticing in all of this is that it's the player using Electro Bolt and not Big Daddy. That's because Big Daddies don't use plasmids, relying entirely on their own personal weapon of choice, be it big old drill or big old gun. But they're just as much a part of the Bioshock aesthetic as the Big Daddy themselves, and they needed to give him something. Subject Delta, the player-controlled Big Daddy from Bioshock 2, does use plasmids, so it does make some sense. Electro Bolt is used for one thing in PlayStation All-Stars: stunning. This gives Big Daddy an opening in his opponent's defense, offsetting his slow speed. Much easier to fire off a lightning bolt and stun your opponent than relying on brute force alone. When you reach the medical pavilion area of Rapture, you find numerous doors frozen over, many of which you need to go through to progress. How do you get past them? Well, there's an app for that, or rather a plasmid.
Light up foes to 1,000 degrees. Warning, fire spreads.
Incinerate is found in an abandoned office. The player is immediately attacked after obtaining it, with the office surrounded by splicers. Oh, the office is also surrounded by oil, so it provides the perfect opportunity to utilise Incinerate's other purpose, setting things on fire. Incinerate is a seriously useful plasmid. When an enemy is on fire, their health drops rapidly and they will often run around desperate to find water. Once they're in water, follow up with an Electro Bolt and you're sorted. See? Useful. Being such a recognisable and useful plasmid, it's naturally part of Big Daddy's moveset in PlayStation All-Stars. However, due to its slowness here, it's not as useful anymore. The aerial version's okay, I guess. As well as the mandatory plasmids the player can find lying around Rapture, you can also purchase additional ones. One of the first you can pick up is Winter Blast, which allows you to shoot ice from your hands.
Freeze your enemies. Shatter them into 1,000 pieces.
This plasmid is useful since you can freeze an enemy and then shatter them. There's a downside, however. Normally, you can search bodies of downed enemies for ammo and money and other goodies, but by shattering them, you no longer leave a body to search. It's still a useful plasmid apart from that though. This plasmid made it into Big Daddy's moveset, where it retains its usefulness. He can leave a pool of ice on the ground, or it can freeze any opponent who touches it. He can't shatter his opponent though. After all, that'd be super territory.
Set traps for unsuspecting enemies. Lure your foes into deadly ambushes.
Another plasmid you can purchase in Bioshock is the Cyclone Trap. This allows the player to dump small tornadoes around, which will chuck around any enemy who walks into them. This isn't the most useful plasmid, however. It's highly situational, and you'll be more likely to catch someone by accident than purposely chucking a tornado in their face, although it is fun watching splicers getting thrown around like ragdolls when they do get in the traps. The Cyclone Trap is a part of Big Daddy's moveset too, and just like its inspiration, it's ridiculously situational and unlikely to be used all that often due to the bizarre arc that the tornado gets chucked out in. It's satisfying to hit an opponent with, mind. There's no comparison recap montage in this video, so we'll be skipping straight to the supers.
Level 1!
So I mentioned the Big Daddies were designed to protect little sisters. Well, let's talk about little sisters, shall we? Basically, a little sister is a child.
You think that's a child down there? Don't be fooled. She's a little sister now. Somebody went and turned a sweet baby girl into a monster. Whatever you thought about right and wrong on the surface, well, that don't count for much down in Rapture. Those little sisters, they carry Adam, the genetic material that keeps the wheels of Rapture turning. Everybody wants it, everybody needs it.
So, time for some lengthy explanation on how plasmids and genetic modification work in Bioshock. The ability to allow a resident of Rapture to shoot lightning and chuck tornadoes around requires a substance known as Adam, secreted by a particular breed of sea slug found in the oceans around Rapture. When harvesting this Adam, scientists found that the sea slugs could produce more Adam if they were placed in a host's stomach. The most viable hosts turned out to be little girls, and so small children were converted en masse into little sisters, walking and talking dispensers of Adam. Little sisters also carried around a specially designed needle designed to extract Adam from dead splicers. You got all that? No? Well, tough, because that's a simple explanation. Basically, little sisters are valuable and frequent targets of violence so that their Adam can be harvested for personal gain. This is why big daddies are mentally bonded to them, so that anyone trying to kill a little sister for her Adam gets a drill to the face. Little sisters also act as the game's central moral choice. Due to them being no more than children, the scientist who developed the little sisters, Dr. Bridget Tenenbaum, began to feel guilty and developed a plasmid to extract the sea slug safely without killing the girls. She approaches the player early on and urges them to save the girls, while your assistant over the radio Atlas urges you to harvest them normally because they're no longer children. Which option will you, the player, take? This is a moral choice that crops up throughout the game. Kill the big daddy, deal with the girl and wipe away the debt, or something like that. You'll encounter little sisters everywhere, so make sure you catch them all. So now I've explained all that, what's their connection to PlayStation All-Stars? Well, Big Daddy's level 1 involves chucking out his bonded little sister on an opponent so that she can stab them with her needle. She can also catch opponents in the air. Initially a pretty useless super due to its weird arc, it was patched to send out a shockwave that helps catch an opponent by surprise and making it more useful.
Big Daddy's general protectiveness can be seen in a ton of his intros, taunts and victory poses, where he could be seen lifting the little sister up, hiding her behind himself, acting menacing and generally being a big bad protector. The flip side of this can be seen in two of his losing outros. When you defeated a Big Daddy in Bioshock, the little sister would break down and begin crying with grief at what you did, which is why two of his losing outros show the exact same thing.
Level 2!
Normally in Bioshock you'll encounter your average Big Daddy wandering the halls of Rapture, usually with a little sister in tow, and their eyes will be yellow to signify their neutrality towards you. However, watch out if you attack either them or the little sister, because their eyes will turn red and they will mess you up.
You could also spark Big Daddies into raging using a plasmid called Enrage, which would make enemies attack everything in sight. While this included the player, it could also be used to let Big Daddies clear out other enemies for you, or to just let enemies fight each other.
This is Big Daddy's level 2, where he gets enraged and his attacks gain power and his speed increases, just like when you anger a daddy in Bioshock. His attacks remain mostly the same, although now all attacks can kill. Oh, and he can chuck bees around. Wait, what?
Unleash insects against groups of enemies. Attack lots of enemies at the same time.
Oh yeah, another plasmid you can obtain in Bioshock is the Insect Swarm. You gain this appropriately enough from the farmer's market. Appropriate because you can buy it near an apiary, and it turns your hand into a gun that shoots bees. This is easily one of the greatest plasmids in Bioshock. I shouldn't have to explain why the ability to shoot bees is amazing. The bees fly at enemies and chase them around, stinging them repeatedly as they flail around. Being covered in bees causes their health to drop rapidly. It's a bee weapon. Be amazed! And Big Daddy can shoot bees in his level 2 super, and they instantly kill! Yeah, bees! Sorry. Level 3?
Level 3!
The key thing I've not mentioned much about Bioshock is that its central location, Rapture, is a city under the sea. Deliberately built into the sea by its creator Andrew Ryan, its location allows Rapture to operate without interference by foreign governments because, well, what government would be willing to hop in a submarine so easily? However, Rapture's position isn't perfect. After all, being so deep in the ocean means there's a ton of pressure to deal with. Not political pressure, but actual ocean depth pressure. Rapture constantly has tons of seawater bearing down, and rather appropriately it likes to leak. Throughout Bioshock there is evidence of Rapture flooding. You'll encounter areas where pools have formed, or water is pouring in from a crack, or even tunnels breaking in and leaking in tons of water that you have to wade through. Basically, Rapture is a very wet place. Big Daddies, of course, can deal with all of this due to them being modified from ancient diving suits. Their bodies can withstand the pressure and they can breathe underwater due to the oxygen tanks on their backs, so naturally if a flood breaks out, a Big Daddy is pretty fine with it. And so, Big Daddy gains the ability to flood stages in PlayStation All-Stars for his level 3. Acting as a variation on his level 2, this also restricts his opponent's ability to move, since they can only flail around in the water as he charges around enraged, like in his level 2. It should be noted that there are underwater sections in Bioshock 2, but since Big Daddy was developed for PlayStation All-Stars with Ken Levine's direct assistance, and Bioshock 2 was not, it seems unlikely that anything from that game was a direct inspiration. But I'm mentioning it here all the same.
I rejected those. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose where the scientists would not be bound by any morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. The sweat of your brow, rapture can become your city as
So that's Big Daddy. I hope you've enjoyed our first look into the world of Bioshock, and we'll be taking a look at another side of it with the stage next time. But which stage we'll be looking at, you'll have to wait and see.